Hey y'all, I'm Elisha and welcome back to another episode of UnCovered, where I reveal my tips and tricks for singing popular music. Today we are doing Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo. This song is everything. It is hip and happening. It's broken records on Spotify, and today we are going to break it down. Let's talk about some vocal techniques. So the first thing I want to talk about is projecting, or lack thereof, in this case at the beginning. So when you're performing, it's important to know where your audience is. If you're holding a microphone, your audience is right here. It's super close to you. You don't have to worry about giving yourself to them because they're coming to you. However, if you're singing in a concert hall, your audience could be 100 feet away. Don't you just love all the snowplowers driving by? You don't project the same way in both scenarios, therefore you don't use the same vocal techniques. So at the beginning here, it's very intimate. Got my driver's license last week. You're singing to yourself almost. Another way to put it is you can meet your audience where they're at and like go to them, or you can draw them in and make them come to you. The next thing to talk about is her phrasing. So a good neutral rule of thumb is when you're singing, you sing in sentences or fragments of sentences, like where you have a comma, like that's what you group together. She doesn't do that here. She doesn't have a predictable destination of where these lines are going. She might emphasize a word or two or bring out a certain part, but there's no clear direction. There's no arrival point, at least here in the verse. I got my driver's license last week, just like we always talked about. So just listen carefully. I know this is very like micro analysis of the way she's phrasing, but you can learn a lot just by listening and picking up on these things that you hear. So the chorus is basically the opposite of everything I just said. And that is one of the reasons that makes this song so incredible, is the contrast. What creates interest in art is when things are different and when you can compare and contrast within the context of itself, within its own song. So the contrast between the verse and the chorus are predominantly these two things. The projection thing we were talking about earlier, and the phrasing. So she's projecting to the end of the concert hall, basically. She's not singing to herself anymore. And her phrasing has very clear arrival points. There's a million and one ways to talk about projecting and how to do it correctly. One thing is, we call it silver platter. So hold out your silver platter here and you want to sing onto your silver platter. The biggest thing this does is get the voice forward, especially coming off a verse where you have no silver platter and you're just like singing in your little voice box here. But if you project it out here, you look at your hand, don't just hold it out, but look there and what are the words? I know we weren't perfect, but I've never felt this way for no one. And then with the phrasing, I know we weren't perfect, but I've never felt this way for no one. I don't know what chords are, but the arrival point is and then you bring it back, and then you crank it up again. I just can't imagine how you could feel so okay now that I'm gone. That's your next arrival point. So make sure you don't stop short and know where you're going, when you want to get there, and what you want the audience to feel once you're there. If you have the luxury of writing in your music, what I usually do on either my classical music, my opera, or in songs like this, I draw a little mountain on top of the word or the note that is the arrival point that I want to make sure I'm constantly driving to, so that I know where I'm going and I know where to start backing off or where to start cranking up. So those are the broad strokes of the chorus and like some techniques to use throughout. Now let's talk a little bit more nuanced. On the word way, you're going to flip into a head resonation, make it very airy sounding, and flow on top of it instead of driving it somewhere. I know we weren't perfect, but I've never felt this way for no one. And the other thing is she's very like slidey and wishy-washy throughout. Doing Sirens with your voice will help connect all the crevices in between there so there's no break in your sound throughout. Now contrastly, on the very next line, you are going to keep building I just can't imagine how you could feel so okay now that I'm gone. and then you back off there on I'm Gone. So as far as like breath support goes, what's really going on here is I'm singing what's called off the body. I'm not using everything in me. I'm literally just using what's in here. And this is why the power goes away, because obviously I have a lot more strength with my whole body than what's in here. Now, if you're still having trouble finding the flip, it sounds silly, but I promise it works. Try to talk like an owl. Woo, woo, way up there. If you feel it up here and if it feels soft, you're doing it correctly. That is your head voice. And then once you find it, once you know how it feels, the next step is going to be using it more and maneuvering it around into lower notes, into higher notes, and just expanding it as much as it can go. Physiologically, what's going on is you are engaging a certain muscle in here. I forget the name of it right now, but you have a muscle for your chest voice and a muscle for your head voice. And most people, we talk in our chest voice. Our chest voice muscle in here is a lot more developed than our head voice muscle. And so sometimes it's hard to unlock or to find, but once you have it, it makes singing so much easier, I promise. It's going to sound bad at first, and that's okay. You have to learn what it feels like and know how to control it before you can start messing with like the colors and stuff you want to do with it. Now, when it comes to schmoozing the note around a little bit, the most important thing for you to do, you have to hit the note before you can schmooze it around. Like, we have to know where you're going before it becomes too ambiguous and it's like, oh, that doesn't sound good, because like, what note is that? So for example, how you could feel so okay now that I'm gone. So before I schmoozed it around, I hit the note, you knew what it was. If I didn't, this is gonna be difficult, I'm gonna try. This is what that would sound like. How you could feel so okay now that I'm gone. I can't do it. That was so bad. It ain't cute when you just schmooze it without defining the note first. And one last note about the schmoozing, if you find that there's breaks in your voice that you don't want there, it's a disconnect. I won't go too deep into it, I promise, but doing those sirens again on lip trills especially. See, at the very top, I stopped my lip trill. That means that the breath is not matching the vocal cords and what they need. So doing sirens is very good. It's very healthy for your voice, and it shows you exactly where the kinks are and where you need to like sing through it more. But the biggest thing with sirens is it should not hurt your voice. If it hurts, you're doing it wrong. You need to stop. You need to call me and I will help you, because it shouldn't hurt. It should feel good for your voice to unlock those parts of it and connect it. So don't let it hurt. So getting back to the song here, in the very last line, she gets back into the choppy phrasing a little bit and transitions us back into the verse. You said forever, now I drive alone past your street. So if we were to do that in the same style as the rest of the chorus, because you said forever, now I drive alone past your street. Yeah, so just be conscious of the switch back. And the last thing I want to mention is the last chorus where it goes like soft again, because it should come with a giant caution sign. Just because it's soft doesn't mean you lose breath support. This is a pitfall I fell into the first time I sang it. I was like, this sounds kind of bad. What could it be? It was my breath support. What's gonna happen if you don't keep the breath support consistent is this. I know we weren't perfect, but I've never felt this way for no one. Where did that note go? I don't know, it disappeared because it wasn't supported. You have to ground the note, especially in your core. That's where it needs to come from. So yeah, moral of the story is, if you're hearing breaks in your sound or cracks or something you don't want when you're singing softly in this last chorus, it's your breath support. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole song. If I forgot anything or if you have a question, leave it below. I'm happy to answer. If you want to work with me one-on-one on a specific song or just in general to improve your voice or piano skills, I would love to work with you. You can send me a DM on any of my socials or an email. All of it is listed down below. So that's gonna be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.